Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, so another one that we have to do. This another NDRRMC meeting in preparation for the first of all to see the status of what we have been able to do after the passage of Marce, and of course now to prepare for Pepito. I think let's hear first from Pagasa to give us what the situation is concerning the storms. Well, I know that one is going away, but Pepito looks very large and very strong. So please.
Good afternoon, Mr. President and distinguished members of the Cabinet, and of course our colleagues in the government. I will present the latest update about Typhoon Pepito. As of 2 p.m. this afternoon, it is located 510 kilometers silangan ng Giwan, Eastern Samar. With wind strength 150 kilometers per hour and gustiness up to 185 kilometers per hour. It is moving westward at 30 kilometers per hour. Medyo may kabilisan siya. Ito po ang projected track ng Pepito. Ito ay inasahan na mag-intensify pa habang ito ay papalapit sa ating kalupaan at maaring aabot ng super typhoon before maglandfall over Catanduanes bukas ng gabi or Sunday early morning. Ang sentro nito will traverse parts of Bicol region, Quezon and Central Luzon, then exit the landmass via Pangasinan on Sunday evening. And then it will exit the Philippine Area of Responsibility by Monday. Gusto ko pong emphasize, Mr. President, ang cone of uncertainty. Again, within that area ay maaring magbago ang track ng bagyo or even landfall location. Sa ngayon, nakataas na ang storm wind signals sa halos buong Kabikulan, maging ang eastern parts of the Visayas, particular na ang Samar provinces. Ang highest signal ay signal number 2, but of course, inasahan natin na ito ay tataas pa habang papalapit ang bagyong Pepito. Next slide please. Dahil po papalabas na o papalayo ang bagyong Ofel, sa ngayon ang inasahan natin mga pag-ulan ay nakafocus na lamang doon sa may Batanes Group of Islands. Next slide please. Subalit tomorrow, simula tanghali hanggang Sunday ng tanghali, inasahan natin ang walang humpay na pagbuhos ng ulan, intense to torrential rain, na abot ng mahigit 200 millimeters of rain. Ito po yung mga areas na nakapula. No? Ito po yung, of course, kasama dyan ang Catanduanes, Albay, Sorsogon at Northern Samar. Malakas hanggang napakalakas na buhos ng hangin, ulan. Ito po naman ang areas na naka-orange. Inasahan po natin ang ulan na abot ng 100 to 200 millimeters per hour. Ito po sa may Eastern Samar, Camarines Sur, Camarines Norte at katamtaman hanggang malakas na mga pag-ulan, ito naman yung nakadilaw. Ito po simula bukas. Next slide please. Now on Sunday, ng tanghali hanggang Monday, ito naman po ang expected rainfall scenario. Ang naka-red, of course, na-mention ko, ito pong makaranas ng mga matinding pagbuhos ng ulan, walang humpay na pagbuhos ng ulan. Of course, ang Kabikulan, Camarines Sur, Camarines Norte, Catanduanes, maging ang Quezon at Aurora. Samantala, ang naka-orange, ito po yung mga lugar na makakaranas ng malakas hanggang sa napakalakas ng mga pag-ulan, 100 to 200 millimeters of rain. Kung hindi magbago po ang track, worst case scenario, Metro Manila po kasama po dito. And of course, ang nakadilaw, ito po yung makakaranas ng mga bahagyang o katamtaman ng mga pag-ulan hanggang sa malakas na mga pag-ulan. Next slide please. Dahil po mabilis ang pagkilos ng bagyong Pepito at may kalakasan ng kanyang intensity, ito rin po ang ating babantayan, ang storm surge na maaaring umabot ng more than 3 meters. Ito po yung mga dalampasigan na naka-highlight in orange, particular na doon sa Kabikulan kung saan ay inaasahan na doon direktang tatama ang sentro ng bagyong Pepito. Next slide please. Yun lang po ang maikling report ko about the latest about Pepito, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. Well, it's more or less as has been forecast and what we have been seeing sa mga briefing na ginagawa ng Pag-asa. Ito lang, dahil ang track nitong Pepito, hindi lang basta tatawid ng Pilipinas, talagang dadaan from this track that we are looking at. First, the first area it will hit will be Eastern Visayas, and then all the way up Bicol to Luzon. Kaya mas malaki ang area na tatamaan nito. And that's why our preparations have to be done accordingly. All right, I think that we have all seen at least a version of these maps that Pag-asa has just gone through with us. Okay, so of course the next thing that we need to do is the OCD will give us a run-through of what we have been able to do thus far to prepare for Pepito.
Good afternoon, Mr. President and members of the Cabinet and colleagues. So next slide, please. So before I go with the preparations for Pepito, I just wanted everyone to be aware of the effects of Christine, Leon, Marce, Nika, and Ofel. All of these tropical cyclones affected the country in 3 weeks or so. And also somewhat made some preemptive evacuation. And if you would look at the map on the right side, you would see in terms of the heat map or severity of the situation, northern Luzon has been affected by several typhoons. And the light blue colors are the ones affected by Christine, Leon, Nika, and Ofel. And the white ones are affected by Christine and Leon. Of these 4 tropical cyclones, it was Christine that made some kind of casualties, 162 dead. But if you would look at Marce, Nika, and Ofel, equally strong tropical cyclones, we have 1 casualty for Marce and 2 missing persons for Nika and Ofel. For Ofel, we haven't had any casualty yet. We're expecting for Nika and Ofel for the statistics to still go up because they had been affected from one way or the other, just one day of calm to be able to do rapid assessments. Next slide. And this is also the statistics specifically for Nika and Ofel. This is going to be a running data as of now because most of the local government units haven't been doing rapid assessments yet because for Ofel, and some of the preparations are still being done, mainly because they have to consider worst-case scenario as well for Pepito, if they would be affected as well. But looking at it, based on the heat map again, it's Region 2 that has been affected, specifically Isabela for Nika, and followed by Cagayan, mainly because of the strong winds and the amount of rain that it poured over the region. Next slide, please. So, in terms of preparation, we do pre-disaster risk analysis within the NDRRMC. We know for a fact that risk analysis is very important to understand and to have an awareness of the elements of risk, especially people that are going to be along harm's way, and even the services that would be affected in case there would be some kind of a risk. And in this particular, we rely heavily on the information coming from Pag-asa, and this how could be translated into warnings and alerts at the local level. And also for the public to be aware of the hazards to consider in terms of planning and specifically for preparedness planning. For us, it's also very important that since there are consecutive tropical cyclones coming our way, it's very important to have that window of calm or to determine that window of response that we can be able to replenish and at the same time preposition assets in between that calm. And basically, it's very important as well to consider at Manila level, at the national level, the likely scenario. All of these are being translated into worst-case scenario by the agencies or by the local government units. Since there is what we call the window of uncertainty, we're not sure yet where Pepito would be heading. So in terms of planning, we have already alerted with the support of the local government units through the DILG to alert regions 1, CAR, 2, 3, NCR, Calabarzon, Mimaropa, 5, 6, 7, 8. For 6 and 7, they're also being alerted because of the activity of Canlaon, sir. Next slide.
Wait, before, just to be very clear, when you say we alert them, what do we do exactly?
Basically,
What does it
these
mean that you
alerts are
alert
being
them?
translated into what they call this one, warnings. Warnings to the local government units to do preemptive evacuation, inform them of the hazards that are coming their way. For example, hazard
Who do you alert? The
areas.
province?
The province, the local government, from the province, municipal, and even the barangay level, sir, through the support of the local government units and
but
DILG.
OCD sends the warning to the province,
Yes,
I
sir.
presume.
Yes, sir. That's what we do.
All right.
We work hand in hand with the DILG. Next slide, please. So basically, all of this, from Pag-asa and from the MGB, Mines and Geosciences Bureau of DNR, we overlay the number of people and the barangays that would be affected. All of these are translated into warnings, alerts, and in the same manner, memoranda to the local chief executives. And this is very important, at least for the people to heed the advice from their local chief executives. And at the same time, it's very important for us to understand where would be the elements at risk so that we can be able to make sure that once the storm passes, we can be able to provide emergency relief assistance for life-saving purposes. And to ensure as well that there would be humanitarian access so that people would have access to essential services. Next slide.
Can you explain this map?
Yes,
Because this storm surge is something that we haven't had to deal with us so
So
far.
basic-
So that is how far if the storm surge is at 3 meters,
Yes.
how far inland? Yung pula, is that the
It
indicator?
depends on, I think Pag-asa and MGB would be able to help me with this. But it depends on the slope and it
Yeah,
depends
naturally,
on the
yes, but we know the slopes of these areas. So can you give us some kind of indicator? How far inland, if there is a 3-meter storm surge, how far inland will they reach? Maybe we can have a shaded map so that we can also warn those LGUs that are within the danger area that there is a possibility of a storm surge.
3 meters, 7 feet.
3 meters, that's malaki yan. Yeah.
If I may, sir, actually MGB had also mentioned to us that as much as possible there would be a minimum of 5-meter easement from the shore. But ideally it should have been 10 meters. 10 meters in easement so that there would be people not on harm's way for that matter.
Actually, there's one thing we learned from Yolanda.
Yes, sir.
It does not matter the distance from the high water mark. It matters the height above the high water mark. You can move 10 meters, 20 meters, 30 meters, but if it's still on the same level, tatamaan pa rin yan. The key element is that that's why the response in Yolanda was actually mistaken, because we moved back from the high water mark. That's not the test. The test is the height above the storm surge. So if it's at 3 meters, we have to look at the topographical map and see where 3 meters is above the high water mark. Because we have the communities that are within the storm surge areas have to do other things besides just prepare for strong winds and heavy rain. Kasi pagpasok, ibang effect niyan. So people have to we have to get them to the high ground. It's not enough to move them away from the sea. We have to get them to high ground. That's the only thing that we can do when there is a storm surge. All right, so can we generate that so that the DILG can also specifically target and say may risk kayo na tatamaan kayo ng ano, and we will send them the map and say dito sa probinsya ninyo ganito. Oo. All right. Okay, so keep going.
So, could you please return to them? And this particular kind of, the main message that we wanted to convey here is for local government actions, local government units to take actions. One is preemptive evacuation. And next slide, please. So basically, these are the generic and at the same time the preparedness actions or the preparations for Pepito that is being recommended for the local government units to hit. So the national and local governments are advised to take advantage of the window of calm, that's one day, between Ofel and Pepito to continue with ongoing response for Marce and Nika, and preparation for Pepito for other regions, including the conduct of preemptive evacuation or forced evacuation starting 15 November. And information dissemination in the form of alerts and warnings to the public utilizing national and local media platforms, and replenishment and prepositioning of emergency relief supplies for life-saving purposes. The public is also advised and encouraged to refrain from unnecessary travels to keep supply routes open, because this number 2 actually was one of the lessons learned we had from Christine. If you would remember, there was a long traffic coming from Matno going to Legazpi, from Sorsogon going to Legazpi, because there were so many trucks that has been stranded along the way. And at the same time, along Camarines Sur, during Christine as well, there was a long traffic and some trucks that has been stranded, and we have a hard time bringing along fuel to Camarines Sur at that time. So from now on, I think this is a very good way to be able to advise the public that supply routes have to be open, supply lines have to be open for emergency purposes. LGU, especially those that had been affected by the consecutive tropical cyclones, to identify additional evacuation centers. As I mentioned, for Christine and Julian and other tropical cyclones, there are protracted IDPs already in the evacuation centers. Specifically in Mimaropa, those that has been affected by Christine because of the landslide and the floods as well in Bicol region. They're still in the evacuation center, and some of them have lost their houses. But then, at the same time, if Christine would pass through Region 3, those who had already been displaced would still are advised to continue. That means they have, for the local chief executives, they are being advised to identify additional evacuation centers that are sturdy enough to be able to house them. And at the same time, we are calling all local chief executives, especially the governors, mayors, and punong barangays, to implement response preparedness measures. And activation of relevant national and regional coordination platforms, such as the NDRRMC Interagency Coordination Center for ease of coordination and decision-making processes. That's all from our side. Next slide. I think basically this is also the prepositioned sea, air, and land assets for mobility and since 4 November 2024, so that we can be able to provide the necessary equipment or search and rescue teams whenever it's necessary to be deployed elsewhere. And they are here in terms of prepositioning. This is also part of the preparations for Pepito. Next slide. As far as the QRF for OCD, we have more than 211 million as of the moment. And next slide. And in terms of anticipated humanitarian needs, obviously, and hope that Pepito doesn't create some havoc. But in case if there would be, since we have already protracted stay of people in the evacuation center, there would be a need to support camp coordination and camp management or evacuation center management. There are already houses that has been destroyed or damaged, and they will be needing emergency shelter assistance. Water, sanitation, and hygiene in some areas have been an issue in terms of potable water and hygiene kits. And in some other areas, especially the ones in Region 2, they have to, their power and communication has to be fully restored yet. I think from the transmission lines, they have already been restored. But in the distribution lines, that's where the issue is. And then additional food and NFIs to sustain the evacuation centers and even people who have already gone back to their houses. Emergency medical services to sustain basic life support. And rehabilitation of school facilities that has been rendered damaged or destroyed. And in the long run, rehabilitation of livelihoods. I think that's the last slide, sir.
That's it. All right. Just another, I noted this, this map that you have preparations for Pepito, where you have the map of the distribution of assets that you have made. I noticed that, well, first of all, we don't see Region 5 and Region 8. So we don't know. But nonetheless, if you look at this, if you look at that map, it seems most of our resources are still in the north, northern Luzon. But that's not. Are we able to move some of those away to bring them to, or again, alam natin, Samar na naman ang tatamaan. Region 8, tatamaan na naman ang Region 8. Bicol for sure. And Kamsur again. So, shouldn't our assets be prepositioned there rather than still up, o ginagamit pa, hindi pa makuha, hindi pa ginagamit pa?
Yes, every morning at the IICC, we would always have a roll call or some kind of a briefing within the interagency coordination center. And all of the regional centers of the Office of Civil Defense are there. And basically, it was not just included here. For example, in Region 8, they have already prepositioned, especially in Eastern Samar and Northern Samar, some flood assets, water search and rescue assets already, even emergency medical teams already been strategically placed. For Region 5, they've already been there since Christine and have been moved. All of these assets somewhat are already prepositioned even before for Marse and even before. Yeah. So some of them are national assets already just strategically placed in those areas, sir. And if ever necessary, we can also pull out some of the assets in some other regions that are not yet being utilized as of now. But what is very important is some assets have to be strategically placed in some of the regions so that they have at a minimum some readiness to begin with. Mainly because although we haven't seen anything yet for the tropical cyclones, we just have to make sure that there is at a minimum assets for such as this that are prepositioned in any part of the regions.
So, in your judgment, all of these assets we're talking about are mobility assets, heavy equipment, ambulance, fire truck, water truck, vessels, rescue boats, water assets, helicopters. They are distributed as best as they can be to anticipate the coming of Pepito.
Yes, sir. We, as I
Wala
showed
kasi
you,
sa mapa yung
Yes, sir.
Region 5 at saka Region 8.
we showed you before, sir, in the initial packages.
The one you
before.
sent me, yes.
Yeah, the
Oo.
more granular dispositions.
Yes.
That's replicated throughout the regions.
Throughout the
already, sir.
regions.
Yes, sir.
All
Just
right.
for brevity's sake, we did not show it.
Okay.
Mr. President, Region 5 is, the list is on the...
Yes, I see that, pero the locations is not shown. And again, Region 8, because if palapit na eh. Malapit na yan. It is clearly, it will be there first. The rain will be felt first in Region 8, and then 5, and then, depending on the track, tatawid na ng Luzon, and we'll go through Central Luzon.
The only change, sir, here will be the air assets. We'll have to secure them in secure hangars. We cannot pre-deploy them in areas because of the lack of hardened hangarage facilities.
Well, the military is the one who is fairly who trained for this to preposition assets in a way that we are keeping them safe from damage and destruction from the storm, and that's what we have to. Those are the kinds of guidance. That's the kind of guidance that we have to follow. All right. Okay. So the next briefing will be given by the SWD.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I only have 3 slides. If you can pull up the 3 slides. Mr. President, just like what the OCD people did, we contextualize it in the point of view of starting with Christine. Just for everybody's information, Mr. President, October 19, our national stockpile of family food packs stood at close to 2.1 million. Now, right after Christine and Leon, that number dropped to 1.3 million nationwide. Now, these numbers, Mr. President, are not static because while we do preposition, we also produce in our warehouse simultaneous. So, for the total 5 storms, Christine, Leon, Marce, Nika, Ofel, we release a total of 1.6 million. So, theoretically, if the number was static, ang matitira na lang sa atin, 2 million less 1.6, dapat nasa 400 na lang. But it doesn't work that way because every day we produce. From out of our repacking center in Pasay, then we opened another center in Central Luzon.
That's right.
And then one in Visayas is running that supplied Bicol, actually. Now, Mr. President, again, we are now in the stage where we preposition, we produce, we dispatch, all at the same time. We produce and respond at the same time, in short. Next slide. Now, Mr. President, we tried to ascertain saan dadaan si Pepito, and these are the areas where we reinforce the prepositioning. So for Region 1, we were back to its original strength of 91,000 prepositioned family food packs. Region 2 is only at 18,000 because nagre-release pa rin sila up to now. That whole operation will end for Ofel by Sunday pa, Mr. President. Because as we speak right now, we're still getting a lot of requests for augmentation from local government units. So what's happening is we send, they release, we send, release. By Sunday, bookend na ho kami for Ofel sa region, for the storm Ofel. Region 3 is at 56. This used to be at 300,000 because, as I mentioned, we're repacking there and deploying to the regions. Now, CAR is at close to its maximum capacity at 52,000. Calabar Zone, Mr. President, we focused on Quezon at 30,000. This one we're not worried, Mr. President, because meron pa siyang ibang peripheral warehouses outside that Quezon area. And then Region 5, we brought it back to 98,000. Ideally, it should have been at 150. Okay. But Mr. President, meron pa rin kaming sinasagot na early recovery for Christine. That hasn't stopped yet. Now, Region 8 is close to its original at 83,000, Mr. President. So this should sustain us. I mean, ideally, should have been bigger, but this should sustain us for the first impact, and then we'll keep on augmenting as we go along. Ang nangyayari kasi, Mr. President, as I mentioned, we are still releasing for the previous storms while stockpiling and doing everything at the same time. Now, the third slide, Mr. President, are the major takeaways. We maintain a 1.3 stockpile nationwide, especially in Vismin. We're not dropping that. Then we're now utilizing 2 supply lines. Simultaneously, we're producing from Central Luzon, Pasay, and Cebu. But we're already getting our suppliers delivered to us pre-pack. So dalawa na, while we're producing, we're also receiving pre-pack levels. Now, Mr. President, we anticipated that starting this weekend, Saturday till Sunday, our normal Luzon-based production was at 35,000 a day.
Okay.
Next week, we'll hit 85,000. It won't drop at 50,000 kasi we're expecting Pepito to be really bad. So that's why sinabay-sabay namin lahat for next week. So our Luzon-based production or stockpile will be at any given time 50,000 a day, sometimes pa 85,000. Now, from November 13 to to December 7, we would have produced close to 1 million family food packs on top of the 1.3. So yung lagi hong tinatanong kung kaya pa ho natin, kaya ho natin because we just got our QRF and we can produce another 1 million on top of the 1.3 million that's spread nationwide. So we're okay, Mr. President, in terms of family food packs.
All right, okay. And, all right, so we have a little time, very little time to ramp up all of these preparations. So let's take full advantage of that. And so we are okay we are all right in terms of the food packs and in terms of the other, yung mga wash, mga non-food. Okay. And, well, okay, all right. Again, to give us a better idea, Pag-asa, can you tell us anong winds niya and how much water do you expect us to get in the different regions?
The wind strength as of 2 p.m. this afternoon, Mr. President, is 150 kilometers per hour near the center, and then with the gustiness or bugso na abot ng 185 kilometers per hour. Of course, we expect this to strengthen as the Pepito move closer to Eastern Visayas and Bicol regions. Rainfall, of course, kanina po up to 200, greater than 200 millimeters of rain, particularly in Catanduanes. For 2 days, ito po yung maka-receive talaga ng malakas mga pag-ulan. And then on Sunday afternoon to Monday afternoon, Camarines Sur, Camarines Norte, and Quezon.
Is there a way to forecast how many inches, how many millimeters of rain is expected?
Yes, there is a corresponding millimeters of rain, and of course the expected impacts on the ground, on the rainfall, please.
The slides will show. Can you turn the next slide? Sige pa. Yeah.
Moderate. So yung intense is more than 200 millimeters.
So sometimes times 2 po pag dalawang araw na ganyan. That's 200 a day. Yeah, that's per day.
200 a day.
Yes, sir. So next.
We have to account
So
for
you-
the saturation.
Yes, we awarded with the Bicol region.
Yeah, for the saturation level.
Well, the one is that first of all, the land is saturated.
Yes, sir.
So wala nang ma-absorb ang lupa. And that's kaya ang daming gumuguho.
Even Calabarzon.
So and then there's also the damage already that has been done to our flood control our flood control in infrastructure. So we really have to do a little extra here because parang ano na tayo, yun na nga, we are already in bad shape because of the saturation, because of the the damages that has been done not only to our infrastructure but to private homes, to other structures. So some of those will not be available to us any longer, and so that's why we have to adjust. We have to adjust accordingly. The one thing that I think we should not ignore is the storm surge, because we haven't had to deal with this until Pepito. The last time we had big storm surges were the super typhoons that we went through, and when there is a storm surge, it of course is very destructive in terms of infrastructure, both public and private. But also the casualty rate pag storm surge, kung hindi nakahanda ang tao, ang dami talagang natatangay. I remember very well in Yolanda, there were many people that we never accounted for anymore, especially in the peninsula, yung tawag na Barangay 88 ng Tacloban. Lahat doon, the peninsula was overrun. Many of those people, we never saw them anymore because we didn't know that there was going to be a storm surge. So now this is why I'm asking that we identify the areas where does the figure 3 meters storm surge come from? Now, how did you calculate that?
The model.
Sa modeling ninyo, 3 meters, all right. So I think we really have to do that so that because the only way to battle a storm surge is to go up. Pagka medyo matibay-tibay yung building, pwede kang umakyat and just let the storm surge come in. Pero kung walang ganun na shelter, kailangan kailangan umalis sila dun sa area na yun. Kundi itatangay talaga sila ng pagbalik ng tubig, dadalhin sila sa labas, dadalhin sila sa dagat. So that's something that we have to pay attention to. So can we generate that map as soon as possible so that we can allow the DILG to warn those areas that there is a storm surge. Now, what is the warning pag storm surge? Anong sinasabi natin sa tao na ano itong bantayan ninyo? Ito yung gawin ninyo. Kailangan talaga evacuate.
Evacuate.
Talagang pinakamaganda evacuate.
Yes, sir. That's the only
Yeah.
solution to it.
Mr. President, in the past administrations, we have preemptive evacuation the day before.
You have to do it, yes.
So those communities that have been warned for storm surge before should know where they are supposed to go. Because in the map, marami naman po diyang very steep slope and elevated. So they just need to identify the flat and the bay-like shapes. So communities can be guided.
Well, many of that population is already in the evacuation centers because of the past storms. So that's something. But I'm sure there are new areas here. Because dito I'm looking. Dito nga sa kabila pulang-pula
Hindi pa tinamaan ng huling bagyo?
Hindi pa.
Sir, if I may, sir, ang OCD, sir, ang pinakamagaling mag-communicate sa mga barangays. When we had our simulation meeting, SITRAP meeting last Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, OCD was the one communicating directly to the barangay captain level.
Okay.
And informing them of what action to take. And it is very effective, sir.
But when we inform them, we say it looks like the storm will pass in your area. Here's what you do.
Yes,
You have to give them
Yes,
guidance. Itong gagawin ninyo. We only have, if we're going to send the warnings out today, this evening, then we'll say you have very little time. We have to prepare. You have to get the evacuation has to be done talaga.
That's what we did with Nika, sir.
Yung
And it was very effective.
pre-evacuation. Oo.
Mr. President, the list of towns to be affected by the LGUs are also included in
You have it already.
in the Pangasa warning.
Uh-huh. That's for the
Storm surge.
for the surge, for storm surge. Okay, again, what do we tell people?
Sir,
Kasi because yung storm surge, people think it's like sa sine yung big wave na ganun. It's not. It's just water that doesn't stop coming in. Basta tuloy-tuloy ang pasok, paakat ng tubig. Paglabas niyan, ang bigat ng tubig niyan, lahat tangay niyan sa dagat. Ang bigat ng tubig. So, what is our instruction to those areas that are in danger to be overwhelmed by a storm surge?
Sir, we cascade the warnings and the instructions through the IACC, both the DILG, DNR, DOST, Pagasa, and us are there. We cascade the warnings down to the regional directors, and we give through the DILG the order to preemptively evacuate already. So that's the trigger. Once there's storm surge, DILG warns, preemptive evacuation already, sir.
From our previous experience in Marcy and in Nika, the northern Luzon provinces were very diligent in the evacuation exercises. Today, we're going to have to test Region 5 again because during storms, during Typhoon Christine, they were not as efficient in evacuating
And moving,
people.
yeah, people.
Hopefully, they've learned their lessons. But OCD is very deliberate and very precise with their warnings, and they go to the barangay levels and tell them to move to higher ground or to go straight to the evacuation areas.
People talaga.
Sir, OCD is on call 24/7, and if they, in case that we need to send out warnings, 1 hour lead time, and everyone assembles in the office, and we have a conference room downstairs so we communicate directly by video.
You forecast it to be over the Philippines for how long? You'll be out by Monday evening? If it continues to travel at what, 30 kilometers per hour?
Yes.
By Monday, it will be over water. Wala na sa lupa.
It will exit the landmass through Pangasinan. Yep.
Par by Monday.
It will be
Out of par by Monday.
by Monday. All right. So that means if it's going to rain heavily, it will start on Saturday and Sunday and Monday. That's still 600 millimeters of rain. that's
400
oh. Well, I mean, to be very simple about it. 3 times 2 is 600. So, magiging that medyo worst case scenario is that we will be getting about 500 to 600 millimeters of rain in 3 days. So 200 millimeters per day. I think 200 millimeters per day is more or less something that we can
Sir, I think
that
Metro,
we've seen before.
Sir, NCR, I think is in greatest danger here
Yes,
because Ondoy was 450 millimeters over 24 hours.
but this is over 24 hours.
Over 24
Oo.
hours. But sir, if this persists on Saturday track, that it passes through, as we see now, on the NCR is very vulnerable to flooding again because of the natural tendency for it. If it receives more than 200 ml, it floods already all over Metro Manila. So that has to be preemptively warned to our NCR mayor, sir.
Well, it'll be the same problems that we always see in NCR, but at least now we have a better idea where, because as we've begun to see yung dinadaanan ng tubig nagbabago eh. Pero yung bagong pinagdadaanan na dinadaanan ng tubig, medyo alam na natin ngayon. So let's look back on the experience that we've had in the past few typhoons that caused extreme flooding that dropped 700 millimeters in just past 24 hours.
Mr. President,
Just a little more than 24.
Metro Manila, for Metro Manila, the color is orange, so up
Yeah.
to around 100 millimeters. But to give our public an idea of when a landslide or flood would occur, the threshold for the assessment is around 100. So if it's more than 100, floods and landslides can already happen. So when we explain about why we look at the 100, 200, 200 and above, it's the 100 threshold that we are looking at.
But
Landslides can
that's
happen
for
already.
landslides, but we have
And
to
also flood. And
yeah,
can
yung
be lower.
flooding kasi is
Yeah, and
the
flood
amount, the volume of water
Yes,
that we
po.
can actually we can move out.
But with the saturation, it can be lower than 100.
Yun na nga.
Yes,
That's the added factor there that we didn't really have to worry about before. All right, I think that we have everything that we can do. We have everything that we need to have in place. We have very little time left to prepare, but it's a good thing actually. Kahit papaano nasa labas na yung mga gamit natin, hindi na natin dadalhin. But we just now the prepositioning is going to be critical, not only of the food packs, but of course all the search and rescue assets that we're going to be needing. Ayan, we'll go back to the rubber boats. We'll be going back to what is our airlift capability in these terms now. How many aircraft do we have available to us so that as soon as the storm passes, kung makapasok na tayo?
Yes, sir. Mr. President, we have 3 C-130s available. one C295, one NC212I, 7 Black Hawks, 2 Huey-2s, 1 Super Huey, and 3 Sokol helicopters. These are in Luzon. In the Visayas and Mindanao, we have 6 Black Hawk helicopters, 2 each in the Visayas Command, West Mindanao Command, and East Mindanao Command.
Well, the ones in Visayas and Mindanao, where are they? Where are those assets now?
They are in Cebu, and
They're only Cebu.
yes, Mr. President.
Yes.
We
Okay.
also have seacraft available, Mr. President. We have 5 Navy ships available, and about 129 rubber boats available nationwide, Mr. President.
Okay. We will again in terms of food, water supply. Those are the things that we have to immediately be concerned about. The pre-evacuation, gawin natin tama yun. The new feature here that we have to deal with is a storm surge, because that's as fatal as a regular, just a typhoon. Let us not forget the lessons that ng storm surge, because again, to go back to Yolanda, the problem is we were telling everybody magkaka-storm surge. Nobody knew what a storm surge was. We should have just said tsunami. The people would have left the coast. But the storm surge, nobody knew until makita mo papasok na, and the water just kept going higher and higher and higher. So that's why we have to give very specific guidance to the LGUs as to how to deal with the storm surge. Again, I know that the critical element when it comes to storm surge is not the distance from the high water, from the high tide mark, but it is the elevation above the high water mark. That is the key element. If it's a 3-meter storm surge, we have to get people at least 5 meters above that level.
Mr. President.
Oh. Yes, sir. Okay.
When I used to warn for tsunami, we have to worry about not only the event, but
Yeah.
the accompanying hazard. So if we talk about a tropical cyclone, if we talk about a storm surge, and then we select an evacuation area, it's an elevated area. They must have a roof, kasi umuulan.
Yes.
Plus, they should worry about the possibility of landslide affecting the selected evacuation area. So they have to be very selective. Kasi sabay-sabay po ang posibleng mangyari yan.
Actually, we might discover that some of the evacuation centers that we have are within those. Yun ang delikado. We lose people from that. Yung nasisira yung evacuation center, magkaka-casualty tayo doon sa evacuation center mismo. So, mabigat talaga itong. What is the long-term forecast? Meron pa bang parating?
May vacation po tayo.
Of how long? Is there anything developing in
Wala
the
pa, sir. 2 weeks wala pang nakikita.
Pacific?
Within 2 weeks wala pa.
Okay, so well that's I think that we have done as usual we properly followed the procedures that we had set out for ourselves for disaster response, and with the added feature that the storm surge, we must remember all the lessons that we learned from previous incidents of the storm surge, and we have to provide guidance to our local executives so that they know what to do and how to protect themselves against a possible storm surge. There is a list here. LGUs to preposition equipment, we do that anyway. All the time. Without, basta't may storm, dinalabas na namin yung mga backhoe, yung mga, pati yung mga chainsaw, Dinalabas na niya hanggang para makalapit agad. So that's that the LGUs know how to do that. The Public Works and the OTR will also be doing the same things. Sa kuryente, wala tayong magagawa. We batten down the hatches and puputulan talaga natin dahil ayaw natin magkadisgrasya. So,
Okay, Mr. President, on the fuel, which we experienced on in Christine, I think we would need the same approach. Unfortunately, vehicles clogged the highways because they were involuntarily stranded. So they could not be moved easily, and I think this is where the composite team was able to clear the highways for the fuel convoys. Because the ports might not be clear yet to replenish some of them right after. So we'll play that by ear. In the case of Central Luzon, Mr. President, the last super typhoon that went through Central Luzon was Carding in September of 2022. And you will recall that you noted that there were 69 kV lines in Central Luzon, and you were wondering, in fact, why we still have 69 kV transmission lines. And we still have around 38 of them directly in Central Luzon. And the 69 kV lines of NGCP can withstand only 120 to 160 kilometers per hour winds. So if the winds are much higher than that and with gas, we really would expect to have power interruption from the transmission side. The distribution lines, some of them are sturdier because they were more recently replaced, but we're particularly attending to the transmission lines because of this vulnerability.
Well, the critical facilities, of course, are government services, the hospitals, the offices, so that the LGUs can somehow at least operate to an extent. The other is a storm surge. The other thing that dapat ilayo, vehicles. Oo. Because when I first arrived in Leyte, there were 3 vehicles running. Everything was washed out, was destroyed. So the vehicles that we're going to use, make sure that they're away from that. Kasi kukunin ng dagat yan pagka hindi natin ilayo.
Sir, with the IACC, in connection with the traffic, with the IACC here, we also have the Coast Guard and the PPA, where if we foresee that there will be traffic caused by ROROs, we already recommend a no sale.
Oh, okay. All right. Then communications. How do we immediately provide communications? Because that's another thing that will come down. We always expected the cell sites to immediately come back up. Pero itong recently, talagang nasira din walang cell site at all. So we have to be able, because we have to be able to communicate with our people, with the local officials. What options do we have to help in that regard? Magpadala tayo. What we used to send those big trucks na satellite, but now maliliit na yung satellite. Siguro we should.
Insofar as the OCD is concerned, sir, we are equipped with satellite communications and other HF radios throughout, and part of the DICT cell in the IACC also provides emergency communications equipment pre and post disasters. So far in these 2 disasters, we had no problems with communication loss insofar as monitoring is concerned, sir.
I remember before that everyone, most LGUs have a satellite phone.
It was a long time ago, sir.
Now it no longer?
No longer, sir.
Maybe that's something we need to think about. So that we provide the mayors, we provide may satellite phones sila.
Probably cheaper with the Starlink.
With the Starlink. Maybe that's a better.
Satellite phones.
Yeah. Pero ang problema sa Starlink, kakaunti lang ang pwedeng gumamit. So each unit,
Starlink, sir, can, I think the big one can 200 units at once.
yung malaki.
Yung
Oo.
malaki 200
Oo.
at once. I think, sir, that should be mandatory already in the disaster, all the provinces, sir.
At saka, sir, the old reliable is an HF.
Yes. Ayun ang
HF is the
HF
old
rin.
reliable.
Oh. All right. So let's tingnan natin na mabuti yun.
Yes, sir.
So that we can the more quickly and the better we are able to communicate, the better we will be able to deploy our resources in the right place at the right time in the right amount.
So maybe Monday na lang sa level namin ni Secretary Gilbert ang
Yung-
response sa Monday. Kami na naman kaya ng meeting. Monday. Kasi Monday yung assessment and release ng ano.
Will be, I guess will be.
Total yung Zelda, sir, yung IACC dito, magandang takbo. Kaya kinakailangan ng importanteng desisyon. Saka kami mag-ano, pero inaaraw-araw din just to keep up panlaban ng fatigue nila.
Oo, yung mga tao natin, walang tigil na silang nagtatrabaho.
Kaya Monday, sir, ang
Others,
response.
ang
Monday ang response scenario dapat. Once
Yeah.
they exit, that's when we can move in already. We can get an accurate
Yeah.
assessment.
Bukas and Sunday, sir,
Yeah.
we will be constantly monitoring and adjusting and then back after.
oo, we always talk about
The cone of uncertainty, sir.
the victims. Pero yung mga personnel natin, ngayon lang kasi nasunod-sunod eh.
That's right, sir.
Yeah, this, for sure. At saka they're walang oras yan. They're working in the rain, they're working in the sun, they're working 24 hours a day. So let's make sure that our personnel are in reasonably good shape para naman na hindi sila masyadong mahirapan, because if they start becoming sick or becoming
Casualty na nga ako, sir.
na ano,
Lumuntag sa helicopter kasama ko, pilay.
na balian.
Pilay lang.
Pilay. Oh, okay.
Mr. President, can we request also the local chief executives to monitor the monitoring agency? When it comes to source modeling, this is forecast model. So as the typhoon gets closer, and sometimes it would increase in strength, we can change the color. It can be higher than 3 at some point. So once we release a new bulletin or information, even those closer to the eastern side of Central Luzon, baka may threat din ng storm surge yan. So i-model din po yun pag lumalapit yung bagyo.
That will be dependent on if
The strength.
how much stronger
Yes, sir.
it
Yes, po.
gets.
So, ibig sabihin, what we presented today is just for this time, but it can change
So the assumption is that at this strength,
at this strength. Yes.
I think it's safe to assume, or it will be prudent to assume that it will strengthen.
Yes, sir. So we request the DILG to remind the chief executives and disaster managers to monitor continuously.
Maybe if it is very it is inevitable, at least scientifically speaking, if it is inevitable that it will strengthen, the warnings we should be giving out are already worst case. Kasi doon din pupunta eh. So let's do that.
Yes, sir. And
Gawin nyo yung worst case scenario na pag nandyan na, nag-strengthen yung Pepito, ano ngayon ang magiging sitwasyon? Ano nang kulay dun sa kanilang lugar? Oo, para
sir, we're in constant touch with
Yeah.
Nat here and his people. It is constant, 24/7, and we immediately download and cascade through the DILG cell the latest information. And as a matter of fact, I have to thank Nat Servando, because I've been pressing him to make some predictions
Yes.
and assumptions or guesses, basically, which we need for planning. And they have been very, very cooperative and effective doing that, sir. So we thank the Pag-asa. And for the constant interaction now, sir.
Yeah, but it's all very well to continue monitoring and to have very accurate meteorology, but if we know that we are going to that the typhoon, that Pepito will get to that strength at some point, That's what we have to prepare for. We don't have to prepare for what's happening today, Friday, what's happening today, Saturday. Palakas ng palakas, palakas ng palakas. Let's go straight to that worst case scenario.
He will need it for camp management also.
Ayan, isa pa yan.
Because, sir, also, if we go to evacuation centers, it also makes the delivery of essential goods and services more efficient, quicker, and safer for everyone. We can even give cooked food already, sir, rather than the food packs.
Mr. President,
May hot food na. Yes,
which
sir.
leads me to another point. Can you go back to the rainfall slide? Rainfall slide, the one that we'd read. All right, Dr. Senbato, you said walang humpay na ulan. What is the indicative data so far? Is this going to be 24 hours in one day? Is this, or minimum 15 hours a day? Or is it 10 hours a day? Walang humpay na ulan.
This is the validity of this slide is 24 hours.
24-hour forecast.
24-hour
So
forecast.
walang humpay na ulan 24 hours a day from Saturday noon to Sunday
More or
afternoon.
less.
Yes,
More or less.
because of the term torrential.
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 Sir, do we have a estimate on how long it will spend in each province, the rainfall?
24-hour forecast.
But 24 hours is our forecast from entry to exit, di ba?
No, from one day.
But how long do we estimate Pepito to be in Philippines, from landfall to exit to landfall?
Sir, for tomorrow, noon time up to Sunday noon time.
So it's Saturday noon time until
Sunday noon time.
Sunday noon time. So therefore, the center of the storm is moving.
Yeah, so they have a daily forecast. So by Sunday noon to Monday noon, meron. Can you show?
Do you have an
other
hourly
slides?
forecast of a province-wide forecast on how long it will rain in the area? It cannot be 24 hours because the storm is moving. Because that will-
rain slides. So this is Sunday for tomorrow.
Yes.
The next slide, that's the next day.
Sa laki kasi ng
Sa laki na rin. Okay.
ng rain.
Oo,
Kaya
malawak.
mahigit
It's
24.
very wide.
Okay. Okay.
So move siya.
When we warn the LGUs, do we provide them with maps? These kinds of maps?
Yes, sir.
Mr. President, these are accessible on social media, in social pages. That's why local government units, if you must, in our monitoring, local government units keep on sharing, posting the Pag-asa reports po on a regular basis po.
All right. Again, siguro so that because people cannot be just monitoring na nakabantay, titignan nila dito ito yung sitwasyon natin. Then so that's again give them the worst case scenario already. So that as best as we can forecast the worst case scenario, bad as it might be, we have done all the preparation for that. The blessing for us is hindi magamit lahat yon. So that's no loss to us. That is a big advantage to us. So but wag naman nating takutin yung mga local. Sabihin natin na talagang masyadong malakas, pero ito yung maaari yung gawin. Ito yung mga nag-aantay na tutulong sa inyo. Ang gawin nyo lang, mag-evacuate kayo ng mabuti. Kayo sa mga surge, may suspected areas for storm surge, umakyat na kayo sa mataas-taas na lugar. Well, okay, we'll just have to do what we can. What's very, very critical, and the LG is going to need that information, is information, that they know what's going to happen. People know, the executives, the officials, down to the village level, the barangay level. Alam nila yung mangyayari, what to anticipate, so they can do. Then we also provide guidance and say, ito yung gawin ninyo, as much as possible. So that's what we should do. So can we get that done today? Sa LGUs, as long as you get all
This
of
afternoon.
get all the information out, padala mo na sa kanila, send it to the phones of the mayors, send it to the phones of the governors, para meron na silang kopya.
Yes, sir.
Hindi na sila kailangan maghanap. Tayo magpadala ng mga information na ganito. Padala natin sa mga telepono ng mayor at saka governor. Tapos, pwede na nilang i-print out yun, gamitin na nila. Oo. Yeah. Let's get as much information to everybody as quickly as possible. When can we complete that package? In the warning package, the package that we will send via email, via Facebook, whatever. All, in fact, not whatever, all of them. Gagawin natin with.
This afternoon, sir, we're
Sir,
ready.
there
You have it ready?
Yeah, we are continuously warning and updating, sir.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
It's a constant.
So
Yeah.
provide the
It's a
DILG.
constant thing.
So provide the DILG with all that information so that they can disseminate it as
And,
to everyone.
and together with the local government units and the Office of Civil Defense, the likely scenario that we have developed at the Manila level, they have developed it translated into worst case scenario, sir. So that, including all of the hazards that has been mentioned over here. So our worst case scenario is the one that you've seen, the one that was sent to you by the Secretary of National Defense for CAR. And all of the regions has their worst case scenario already developed.
All right. Okay. Well, again, just keep doing that. Watch out for the storm surge. Continue what we're doing for the relief goods. Our assets for rescue, search and rescue, be in place. The local governments, alam naman nila, sanay naman sila. Alam nila ang gagawin nila. Basta sabihin mo, may parating. Alam na nila ang gagawin nila. Okay, I think we've attended to most of the basics. Is there anything else that we need to be worried about? All right, thank you very much. At we have to, ang una natin ginagawa ay we have to redistribute our assets na ginagamit natin para sa mga nakaraang bagyo na mostly dumaan sa Northern Luzon. So yung ibang asset na yan kailangan dalhin sa mukhang tatamaan na naman ng big pati Region 8, pati Region 5. Mukhang tatamaan ulit. And then back na naman dito sa Region 2, Isabela, Cagayan. But also Central Luzon kasi pati NCR mukhang aabutan nito eh. So we have to reposition many of our assets to make sure that at least in the search and rescue phase that we are ready or we have our assets available. The LGUs are being continuously informed about the weather situation together with guidance and instructions on what to do. The airlift capability for pagdala ng mga gamit for search and rescue, mga relief goods, etc. ay mukhang nakahanda naman. The airlift, pati na yung mga barko na nagdadala ng mga relief goods. Ang aking nakita na medyo bago at naiba doon sa mga nakaraan ng bagyo, yung storm surge. Kung naalala ninyo, ito ang napakadelikado dahil noon, nung nagka-storm surge tayo, lalong-lalo na ng Yolanda, ay hindi natin alam kung ano yung storm surge. Ngayon, alam na natin. So, lessons learned from the previous typhoons where we have had storm surges, it seems to be a significant one because if you're talking about 3 meters, that's almost 1 floor. So, kailangan talaga nating abisuhan ang mga LGUs natin na nakikita natin na baka abutan ng storm surge. So, This is what we are concentrating on. We have very little time to do it because ang forecast is that the storm we will start feeling the storm by tomorrow. Kasi hindi naman not necessarily yung mata ay pumasok na. Kahit na yung sa gilid pa lamang umuulan na yan. The rainfall is going to be comparable to maybe Christine and Mars, and we hope that that's why we are doing all that we can to warn people to prepare. So that's what we have done for the arrival of Pepito.
This is the fifth typhoon, sir, yung Pepito.
I'm sorry?
If ika-5 or ika-6 na bagyo na itong Pepito, medyo marami na yung agricultural loss natin. Are you bothered na yung food security ay maapektuhan at yung presyo ng bigas?
I don't know. No, in terms of food security, we're all right. But marami talagang nasisira. Ang dami nang nasira na palayan, ang dami nasira na tanim. We will just have to compensate for that. Dahil we just came out of El Nino na although during the El Nino time we had the highest production pa rin for that season. Pero ito talaga sinisira talaga yung tanim. So that's going to be something that will require attention.
This will not result, sir, sa more rice importation.
Yes.
Kahit sunod-sunod yung bagyo.
I think so. Unfortunately, I just received a report from the DA. Mukhang madadagdagan ng importation natin. We will import close to 4.5 million tons. Nag 3.9 tayo last year. Ang upper estimate is 4.5. But we have already in place the prices of rice, imported rice have gone down significantly since last year. So, and we are not in competition like during the El Nino period. During the El Nino period, tinamaan lahat ng ASEAN countries. Kaya tayo tumaas ang presyo kasi lahat namimili. Dito, dahil siniswerte tayo lang ang tinatamaan. Tinamaan tayo, so we're not competing. So the prices are staying at about $400 plus, $400 per ton. So that's still that will so our imported rice should be at that price. At titignan natin, of course, we'll do everything to control the price of the food, especially all of those products that have been damaged or destroyed by Pepito. Thank you. Not only Pepito, the whole series of typhoons that have come. 6 typhoons in 3 weeks. Never in the history. Nangyari na raw yun eh.
1946.
In 1946. It happened in 1946. But in my lifetime, I haven't seen it. Siguro kayo din.
70 years. Once in 70 years.
Since just after the war. So we're back to that. So we just have to deal with it. All right. Thank you.
Sir.